Hello and welcome to the F1 in Schools National Finals for the professional class for 2021. Hi, I'm John Thomson and we're coming to you today from the Penrith Christian School in Sydney's western suburbs for the second day of racing action covering the professional class. Just like yesterday's development class action and last year's state finals, there'll be no students attending today due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But we're positive today's program will keep you on the edge of your seat as we watch the battle between the 17 professional class teams. But before we get started, let's take a closer look at what the professional class is all about.
The professional class is for students who previously competed in the development class of F1 in Schools, or for those looking to compete at a higher level, with no imposed restrictions other than those outlined in the general, technical and competition regs. Both junior and senior professional classes compete against each other and undergo the same judging process. This is the highest level of competition in Australia and offers students the greatest opportunity to demonstrate their design and innovation skills. Throughout the process, students need to document their progress in a portfolio submission, which forms part of the judging alongside verbal presentations and trade displays. Because of COVID, online judging sessions were conducted for verbal presentations, along with engineering and marketing interviews. Students create a team of up to 5 members and allocate roles, including the team manager and design engineer. In the professional class, the team members will use a range of software, from CAD and related flow modelling software to social media and web platforms, and various team management and project management applications. Students need to produce a model F1 car made of balsa wood based on their CAD design using a CNC router. They may also use a 3D printer for front and rear wings. However, there's no mandatory requirement for 3D printing and other methods can be used. The professional class may also source and/or manufacture their own wheels and wheel bearings. The design must include a chamber for a CO2 canister used to power the car along the 20-metre track. Professional class teams mailed in 2 identical cars, ready to race in the national finals.
The track for the F1 in Schools program is set up here in the hall at the Penrith Christian School. We'll be ready for racing very soon. Earlier in the week, however, the cars went through a process called scrutineering. Let's look a little deeper into exactly what's involved in scrutineering a miniature F1 car.
Teams participating in the national finals have to adhere to a strict set of rules and regulations designed to make the competition both fair and safe. We call the process of judging that the cars meet the specifications scrutineering. Scrutineering a miniature F1 car is just like scrutineering a full-size F1 car. Students design their cars in CAD and then manufacture it to fit within the guidelines of the rules and technical regulations. The scrutineer's job is to check and ensure the design and manufacturing meets those regulations. Design elements such as vehicle weight, length, track clearance and thickness of the balsa wood at various points are all checked using precision measurement tools. Even simple rules like ensuring decals are placed in the correct location are all checked, and teams have points deducted when they don't fully comply or the car is outside the specifications in the regulations. In some cases, a time penalty will be added if a car fails to meet critical regulations, like front wing clear airspace for example, and some of the eligibility rules can even result in a team having a car disqualified. Many of the regulations are designed to ensure safe racing and prevent components like wheels and wings from flying off during the event. The rules also stipulate that the cars must withstand the forces on the vehicle when they hit the brushes that stop the car at the end of the track. Tolerances are critical in the F1 in Schools competition, and even the thickness of the paint on the surface of the car can be the difference between a car passing with flying colours or being hit with a time penalty before the car has even made the track.
Well, it's great to see all 17 professional class teams made it through scrutineering without disqualification. We're going to start racing right now, but first let me give you a bit of a rundown about how the racing works. Each team will get 4 races with both their cars on track at the same time, giving 8 times. The fastest and slowest times are then discarded, leaving the 6 times that are added together to give you a Grand Prix time. Points are then allocated based on the Grand Prix time, with the fastest team receiving 150 points. The 8 fastest teams, based on their fastest laps, not their Grand Prix times, then go into a knockout competition where bonus points are allocated. Well, first up on track in the professional class is a team from Canberra High School, Elysium, a team of 4 young women headed up by team manager Alison Kennelly. The team has actually been featured in an article in the Canberra Times on the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, which was great. The 3 main aims of the Elysium team were to increase their speed, improve their wheel design and their wheel bearings. Unfortunately, they fell foul of the scrutineers and came up with 5 critical issues for Car B and 3 for Car A, which has put them right behind the 8 ball. Let's take a look at their times, and the fastest of 1.526, which is not that quick. And if you look at the weights of the cars, Car A tips the scales at 54.99 grams and Car B at 54.41, almost 5 grams over the minimum weight rules. Their Grand Prix time, and that added up of the 6 fastest times with a 9.456. That's not that fantastic either. And unfortunately, I think they're going to have trouble as more teams race. They're first overall at the moment, but of course their first car on track. Second team up on track today is a team from Magdalene Catholic College in New South Wales. The team's called Luminescence, and it's headed up by their team manager Marcus Attard. It's 5 Year 10 students from the college, and the team's name, Luminescence, comes from the emission of light, because they want to emulate the speed of light in their design. And they've gone a very interesting route. The car's a really interesting shape and an incredible design. However, they have infringed some general car regulations, particularly with the minimum width and also the minimum track width. So that's caused them to have a number of critical issues, although none of them are time penalties, and they've also got 5 non-critical issues on the other side of both cars, actually. But looking on the bright side, both cars are extremely light, with Car A weighing in at 50.29 and Car B at 50.2 grams. Let's have a look at how they went on track. Well, a fastest time there of 1.234 seconds and a Grand Prix time, a sensational time of 7.737. That's a really impressive result, but they're obviously going to lose a few points, as we mentioned before. Well, next up on track is a team from Penrith Christian School right here in Sydney. In fact, right here where the national finals are taking place today. And it's a team of 5 students from Year 10 called Axion. There's 2 girls and 3 guys, and they're headed up by their team manager, Jordan Wiley. The team has come up with a very light car indeed. Both their Car A and Car B are very close to the limit of 50 grams. Well, let's look at how they went on track. And a fastest time of 1.238 and a Grand Prix time of 7.634 for Axion. And looking at how they were scrutineered, they only lost 1 point in scrutineering and only had 1 critical issue and no time penalties, which is fantastic. During the engineering process, the team used biomimicry, which is the act of taking inspiration from the revolutionary products and the evolutionary products of nature. A thesis they studied on the hydrodynamics of hammerhead sharks, and you can see that in the design of the car. It's got a real shark mouth to it, so that's stood them in good stead, and we'll wait and see how they line up. But at the moment, they've jumped up into first on the leaderboard. Well, 4th team on track today is a team from Riverside High School in Tasmania, and they're called In Motion. It's a team of 5 girls from Year 9, headed up by their team manager, Ruby Corbett. They received a perfect score of 80 out of 80 after scrutineering. These girls had formerly competed in the development class and had really evolved their previous designs off the look of other cars. But they really went in deep with this team in the professional class, looking hard at how to design their own unique shape. And they looked very hard at F1 car design and also the design or the form of teardrops, which is the most aerodynamic form at subsonic speeds. And they've come up with a brilliant piece of machinery, and a credit to them to get through scrutineering, losing no points. Let's have a look at how they went on track. And a fastest time, wow, a 1.208, and that makes them fastest time so far. Their Grand Prix time, 7.874, which is fantastic. Let's see how they shape up across the day, but currently they're third overall, and as I said before, the fastest so far. So our next team is from Albert Park College in Melbourne, and obviously have a great lineage there with the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit just across the road from the school. The team is headed up by Agnes McCallum, who's the team manager of what they call Momentum. She manages a team of 4 female students from the college, all in Year 9. Okay, so let's see how they went on track. Well, the fastest time of 1.25 seconds and a Grand Prix time of their 6 aggregate times, 7.802. That's a pretty good effort. However, during scrutineering, they lost 9 points and they had 2 non-critical issues with car A and 3 with car B. Currently, they're third overall and they have the 4th fastest time. The team's primary design focus was on aerodynamics and weight, and that certainly proved beneficial because both their cars are very close to the 50-gram weight limit, which is a great effort. They also used biomimicry, particularly in the design of their wheels, which they designed in a hexagon pattern like a beehive because they believed that it was going to give greater strength and less flex in the wheels as they raced. Okay, our next team is from Trinity Grammar School in Kew in Melbourne, and the team's called CEDO. It's headed up by their team manager Oliver Wilkie, who leads a team of 4 Year 10 students, all boys from Trinity College. Well, let's look at how they went on track. Unfortunately, it looks like they've lost a wheel. Let's hope that the REA team can fix that before their next run. In fact, they were able to do that, and a fastest time there for CEDO of 1.25 seconds. Overall, their Grand Prix time, a 7.764. But unfortunately, they lost 9 points in scrutineering, including a couple of critical issues relating to wing regulations and also some other general car and wing regulations which were non-critical issues. That also meant that they lost 0.05 second time penalties on both cars. After the state finals, the team did a lot of work to improve the design of the car and left no aspect of the car undeveloped. They included an innovative design that meant the canister was angled at 3 degrees, which they believed would prevent the car from tipping. So that puts them third overall at the moment and 4th fastest so far. Next up on track, a team from St Francis Xavier College in the ACT called Velocity, obviously relating to the word for speed. And that's a team headed up by team manager Dominic Ferraris, a great name for a team manager in F1 in schools. The team is made up of 3 guys and 1 girl, all from Year 12, so they're senior students from the St Francis Xavier College. Let's see how they went on track. Well, a fastest time of just 1.393, not that quick, and overall Grand Prix time at 8.611. The design of the final Velocity chassis and car included improving and simplifying the wheel system with a lot of research on using double ceramic bearings, a really innovative design technique. Despite the fact that the cars have got a very innovative design, they did lose some time, 0.15 seconds for both cars. Without those time penalties, their fastest time would have been a 1.243, which would have put them 2nd fastest in the standings so far. Unfortunately, due to their time penalties, they are 6th and 6th fastest overall. The cars were also a little bit heavy, 51.94 for car A and 50.98 for car B, not so bad. Well, our 8th team in the professional class this year is St Francis Xavier College and their innovation team, which is headed up by team manager and marketing manager Zoe Creswell. They tried very hard to have some new aerodynamic side pods and wings, but unfortunately they contravened some of the rules with the body and side pod regulations and also wheel regulations. Let's have a look at how the team went on track. Fastest time of 1.365, not that quick, but that time has been affected by some time penalties. In fact, a 0.15 second time penalty for car A and a 0.1 of a second time penalty for car B. Their Grand Prix time overall an 8.348. Overall, they're 6th and also 6th fastest time so far. Looking at their scrutineering, they lost 15 points out of 80, so they only scored 65, and they came up with 3 critical issues on car A and 2 on car B, which resulted in those time penalties we mentioned earlier. Next up on track, we have a team from Blue Mountains Grammar in New South Wales, Photonic Racing. A small team, just 3 members, headed up by team manager Nicholas Hayes, who was the team manager and also the digital designer. In scrutineering, they lost a total of 16 points, and that was actually as a result of a couple of critical issues, 3 with car B in fact, and 1 with car A, and some time penalties, a 0.05 with car A and 0.15 with car B. So let's have a look at how Photonic Racing did on track, I should say. A fastest time of 1.288 and a Grand Prix time a little bit disappointing at 8.46 overall. Now the team went off on a very risky strategy. They weighed up the benefits of some non-compliant side pods against the aerodynamic gains that they would make and weighing that against the penalties they would receive. Unfortunately, the penalties did come, and that cost them some time and some points in scrutineering, and in fact that puts them 7th overall, and on fastest time they're 6th. Next up is a team from Newington College in Sydney called Instinct Racing, a team headed up by their team manager and head of marketing Tristan Henry. This team's comprised 2 Year 9, a Year 10 and a Year 11 student from Newington College. This team had some critical issues, 3 with car A and 4 with car B, and that meant that they only had a score of 53 out of 80, and they also incurred some time penalties, 0.1 of a second for car A and 0.15 of a second for car B. Let's have a look at how they went on track. Fastest time of just 1.354, a little bit disappointing, as is their Grand Prix time, 8.479. Unfortunately, that puts them 8th overall and 7th on fastest time. The team name and slogan comes from follow your instincts, and they certainly followed their instincts with the design of the car. They simplified the wheel design, and the final design included carbon fibre axles and ceramic bearings. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, they had some critical issues. They infringed wheel and wing regulations, as well as the power plant provisions regulation of the CO2 gas canister. Okay, let's take this chance to look at the leaderboard and see where we're all standing after 10 competitors. And at the top of the leaderboard at the moment is Axion from Penrith Christian School, a fastest time of 1.238 and a Grand Prix time of 7.634. Behind them is Luminescence in 2nd and Cedo from Trinity Grammar School in 3rd place. Interestingly, of the top 5 competitors on the leaderboard at the moment, Cedo is the only one to have incurred time penalties. Now, without those time penalties, their fastest time would have been a 1.2 and their Grand Prix time a 7.464, which would have put them at the top of the leaderboard at this moment. That only underlines how important it is for teams in this competition to avoid time penalties. Okay, we're going to take a quick break from racing now and head over to profile one of our schools in our professional team feature story.
My role in Luminescence is design engineer. So I do everything from the designing initial concept sketches of our car all the way through to CAD modelling and renders even.
My role in Luminescence is resource managing, so I've got to look after funds, I've got to look after what we spend those funds on, where it all goes, keeping track of it, and then anything to do with public relations.
So my role in the team is I'm the team manager for Luminescence. I have been the resource manager as well, back when we used to be Hermes Racing. I'm kind of the overseer almost. I don't particularly specialise in an area. I'm more making sure that everybody stays on track towards, I guess, what their project is. You know, I think I focus a lot more on the enterprise side than the engineering, but even then I try to balance it out as best as I can.
The most interesting aspect of being in F1 in schools for me is talking to sponsors and going out and being involved in collaboration. Like we did some sheet metal folding, we've gone out and welded things, we've done a lot of experience, we've talked about marketing. It's just really good to get experience from other companies. It helps us with our job and it's just really interesting to learn other people's perspective.
I think the biggest challenge in designing an F1 car is to be unique these days. It's very hard because a lot of the cars being pushed out by competition they're quite similar.
Team name. Now the team name's an interesting one. We went through quite a few different team names, but we decided Luminescence obviously was, you know, we're shining brighter. We're gonna, I guess, improve on what we'd done in the years before, and that kind of encapsulated the mindset of the team, so we decided to go with that.
I think the biggest lesson we've learned is that having a plan is better than having no plan. We're planning all the time. It's just the biggest thing that you have to do for this type of competition because you need to know where you're headed, but also where you've been.
I would definitely recommend this program to other students. It's just really educational in lots of different areas. It's really good for team collaboration, working with a team, you learn new technology. It's just teaching like a new generation, making them familiar with what the world's gonna be.
Well, great story there, and great to see those students and hear about their experiences of being involved in the F1 in Schools program. Our next team to hit the track is from Pacific Hills Christian School in Sydney, and the team's name is Aberration, headed up by team manager Caitlin Voss. It's a team of Year 11 students from the school, 4 of them guys and 1 girl. The car actually, as you can see, features swept wings and a front crescent moon-shaped wing, and it's used to reduce the interference drag. But unfortunately, they contravened some of the body and side pod regulations. And let's have a look at how they went on track. Oh, that's disappointing. A time of 1.435, their fastest. The Grand Prix time overall was an 8.831. That's going to put them well out of contention, I would have thought, particularly when you look at their score after scrutineering with a 54 out of 80, so they lost 26 points. They had 4 critical issues with each car and 4 non-critical issues, and that cost them some pretty severe time penalties, 0.2 of a second with car A and 0.15 of a second with car B. And that puts them 10th overall and only 10th fastest on the leaderboard at this point in time in the competition. So next up on track is our team from Parramatta Marist High School and Catherine Macaulay, and that's Prism Racing. 4 very ambitious students, headed up by their team manager and enterprise manager, Jared So, and also with their member from Catherine Macaulay, their CAD and manufacturing engineer, Natasha Matu, all of them in Year 11 at their high schools. And let's have a look at how the car went on track. This is a really striking looking car in its brilliant purple paint scheme, and let's look at how they raced. Wow, that is a very, very good time, 1.195. In fact, the first car to break the 1.2 second barrier, and that gives them a Grand Prix time when they add up the aggregates of 7.622. That's sensational, and in fact, That'll put them at the top of the leaderboard and fastest overall as well. So that's a great effort. This team, as I mentioned, consisted of 4 very ambitious students from Catherine Macaulay, Natasha Matu, their design and CAD manufacturing engineer, and also from Parramatta Maris Brothers High. The 2 schools came together, and the team is really passionate about mentoring the junior students in the upcoming cadet and development teams for the 2021-2022 competition. Our next competitors is a team from Brighton Secondary School in South Australia, and that's the team Unity. A team of just 3 members, headed up by Luke Gurney, their team manager and engineer, a very famous name, Gurney, in Formula One legend, the American racer Dan Gurney, of course. Unfortunately, this team were behind the 8 ball right from the word go. They lost some members of the team that won the state finals to Year 12 studies, and they tried to recruit some new members. They only were able to recruit one, their graphic design and media manager, Tucker McFarlane. So let's have a look at how they went on track. Their fastest time was only a 1.328, and in fact, I'm hearing from the track that one of the axles broke on their B car and they haven't been able to glue it back together in time for it to compete. So that means they don't get a Grand Prix time, which puts them in the bottom of the list. In fact, 13th outright and 8th on fastest time. And that issue with the broken axle obviously was affected by some of the critical issues that were identified, including failing their freely rotating wheels and also the wheel regulations with visibility in front view. So obviously the axle situation affected the performance of that car and probably triggered the break in that axle. Next up on track is the Aspect Racing team, and that's a team from Modbury High School in South Australia, headed up by their team manager, Ari Sidhu. They did lose 8 points in scrutineering for various non-critical and 1 critical issue, but that's really great. And the main objective of the team was to increase the speed, the compliance and durability of the car. And I think the way they put the car together and really the interesting shape of the car, they've achieved that. And in fact, this team has a very multicultural background, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's see how they went on track with their time. Wow, a very fast time indeed, a 1.208 for Aspect Racing, and a Grand Prix time overall, their aggregate 7.369. That's sensational. And in fact, that puts them at the top of the leaderboard, their Grand Prix time, the best so far, and second fastest for their fastest time. So, as I mentioned before, a very diverse background multiculturally. The team consisted of competitors from very different cultural backgrounds, including Cambodian, Singaporean, Filipino, Indian, Iraqi, and German heritage, and each bringing different aspects from those cultures, which is why they called the team Aspect Racing. Our next competitors are from Brighton Grammar School in Melbourne, and that's Constellation Racing. And really interestingly, a team of 3 Year 10 and 11 students from Brighton Grammar. Interestingly, all of them have very significant names when it comes to Formula One. We've got Jensen Galvin, James Mitchell, and their manufacturing engineer, Ayrton D'Alessandro. So a very famous name, particularly given that we've just gone past the anniversary of the passing of Ayrton Senna, one of the great Formula One heroes of all time. Let's have a look at how they Constellation Racing went and whether those Formula One first names had any effect on it. Wow, goodness me, look at that. A 1.178. That's the fastest time so far, and a Grand Prix time for the Constellation Racing operation of 7.34. So that puts them at the top of the leaderboard, a really significant effort there. Just looking at the cars, well, both of them are very close to the weight, 50.69, and they had just 2 non-critical issues for car A and 4 non-critical issues for car B. This is a very highly experienced team. These guys have been together racing since 2018, and they looked in this phase of the design for the national finals here today at the front wing design. They said it was highly important, and that was successful in guiding the air over and beside the front wheels, just as Formula One teams do. So a very good effort there from Constellation Racing to put them first outright and first with fastest times. Our next team up is Team Hydron from Trinity Grammar School in Kew in Melbourne, a team of 5 Year 10 and 11 students headed up by Alexander Liu, who's their team manager. And this team has a very highly organised structure. And this year they used sub-teams to actually enhance the workflow. We'll talk a bit more about that later. Let's see how Team Hydron went in the racing. Goodness me, that's a very fast time indeed. A time of 1.145 for Team Hydron. That puts them at the top of the fastest timesheet, and a Grand Prix time also at the top of the leaderboard with 7.208. That's a sensational effort there from Team Hydron. And again, their car's very close to the 50 gram minimum weight limit, so that makes sure that the cars are very light. But as I said, the team used a new work structure with sub-teams to try and make the workflows more efficient. The team's name was chosen to fit the team's philosophy of simplicity, innovation and presence, and clearly that worked. They reviewed all of the race footage from their previous efforts and refined the car, and they only had 2 non-critical issues and scored 79 out of 80 with their scrutineering score. So fastest overall and also fastest in terms of Grand Prix times, and Team Hydron goes to the top of the leaderboard with only a couple of competitors left. And our final team competing today in the F1 in Schools Professional Class National Finals is the Newton Moore High School team from WA, all the way across from the other side of the continent, and that team is called Power Curve, headed up by their team manager Joshua Francis, a team of 5 Year 11 students from Newton Moore Senior High School. Power Curve has some pretty good credentials, and if we look at their scrutineering score, they lost a total of 14 points, scoring only 66 out of 80. Let's see how they went on track. Their fastest time of 1.259, not too bad, but their Grand Prix time a bit disappointing, 8.062. And they also had some time penalties, 0.05 for both cars as well. The team car design featured a promising new front wing and a new slope body design, along with some new aerodynamic features. And the car had a centre of gravity near the canister, meaning the loss of power and energy to rotational inertia was limited, according to the team. They did lose those critical issues, however, on body and side pod regulations, and also on the power plant provision regulations where the CO2 cylinder is housed. And that resulted in those time penalties and, of course, those critical issues. That puts them 10th overall and also 10th in the fastest time list as we wrap up racing in the professional class. Okay, let's look at the leaderboard after the first phase of racing in the professional class, and at the top of the leaderboard is Hydron Racing from Trinity Grammar School in Melbourne with a fastest time of 1.145 and a Grand Prix time of 7.208. They're followed in second by Constellation Racing from Brighton Grammar School and Aspect Racing from Modbury High School in South Australia. Looking across onto the second page of results, in 11th is Innovation Racing from St Francis Xavier College in Canberra, and bringing up the tail is Unity Racing from Brighton Secondary School. And it's worth noting that our top 3 teams were all without time penalties heading into the racing, and shows how important it is to stay within the technical specifications and to be without time penalties if you're to win in the F1 in Schools National Finals. All right, it's time now to move into the knockout competition here in the F1 in Schools Professional Class National Finals, and the fastest team will go head-to-head with the 8th fastest team in this knockout competition. Second goes up against 7th, and so on down through the ranks. The winners of the quarterfinals then face off in the semi-finals, and then the winners go into the finals to see who gets the allocation of bonus points. By the way, the winner of the knockout competition gets 30 bonus points. And let's look at the teams that have made the knockout, obviously based on their fastest times. So Team Hydron from Trinity Grammar heads up the list ahead of Constellation Racing, Prism, Aspect Racing, In Motion, Luminescence, Axion and Momentum. Okay, our first matchup in the knockout competition, Hydron Racing up against Momentum. Let's look at their times in the first race. Car B for Hydron up against Car A for Momentum. And wow, fantastic time there from Hydron, a 1.152, easily winning that race. Momentum scoring a 1.249. And in race 2, again, Hydron coming through to win that race. A much tighter battle there, a 1.208 for Hydron, a 1.291 for Momentum. That pushes Hydron through into the semi-finals. Momentum, the all-girls team from Albert Park College, a great effort there, but not quite fast enough to beat out Hydron. All right, moving into our second series of races in this knockout competition, we've got Aspect Racing up against In Motion. And we look at the times for the first race, Car B from Aspect Racing up against Car A from In Motion. And very close indeed. Aspect Racing scoring a 1.208 fastest time, and In Motion a 1.280. And in the second race, Aspect Racing again triumphing with a 1.209 up against In Motion's 1.310. So Aspect Racing going through to the semi-finals. The In Motion team, the all-girl team from Riverside High School in Tasmania, unfortunately not making the second phase of the knockouts. We move on to race 3 in our quarterfinals of this knockout competition, and we have Prism up against Luminescence, two New South Wales teams. So in race 1, Car B up against Car A, and let's look at the times. Wow, that's very close indeed. 1.195 for Prism, and they beat out the Luminescence Car A by just hundredths of a second with a 1.231 for Luminescence. In the second race, Car A up against Car B. 1.199 for Prism and 1.267 for Luminescence. Again, a very close race, a very close run thing, but Prism going through to the second phase of the knockout competition, and Luminescence from Magdalene Catholic College not picking up as many bonus points as they'd hoped. Okay, the last of our quarterfinals in the knockout competition, and we have Constellation Racing up against Axion. Let's see how they went in race 1. Well, a time there of 1.304 from Constellation, but an even better time of 1.278 from Axion. And we move on to race 2. Let's see how they went. 1.230 for Constellation, and a very close run thing, a 1.216 from Axion. So Axion goes through on that times to the semi-finals. In Constellation Racing, the team from Brighton Grammar School in Melbourne, even though they've got those Formula One names in their team, they won't be progressing to the semi-finals. Now it's time to move into the first of our semi-finals in the knockout competition, and we have Hydron up against Aspect Racing. And in race 1, it's a very close run thing. Wow, an incredibly sensational time from Car B for Hydron, a 1.149. That's just 4 thousandths of a second outside their fastest time so far in the competition. Aspect Racing comes through a 1.192. Moving into the second race. And wow, fantastic time there from Hydron, 1.200. That's enough for them to beat out Aspect Racing and move into the finals. Aspect Racing, the team from Modbury High School, doesn't pick up a place in the final, so they won't get as many bonus points. The second of our semi-finals now, and we have Prism up against Axion. And let's look at how they went in the first race. Wow, that was a very close run thing indeed. 1.230 for Prism. So they win that first race in the semi-finals ahead of Axion with a 1.268. Let's see how it matches up in the second race. Goodness me, that's close again. There's nothing in this, and in fact the aggregate time between the two puts Axion into the final, and they beat out Prism by just 1,000th of a second. That's an incredible effort, but unfortunately the team from Parramatta Marist High School is out of the semi-final, and they don't make the final. The final will be up against Hydron and Axion, so we'll see that in a moment. Now we're into the final of our knockout competition. Hydron up against Axion. Let's see how they fare on the track. Wow, another sensational time from Hydron, 1.158. That's getting near their fastest time overall. And 1.285 for Axion. So Hydron wins the first race. And in race 2, let's see how they went. Well, a time of 1.207 for Hydron and a 1.240 from Axion. So Hydron, clear winners in that competition. Axion put up a tremendous fight. The team from Penrith Christian School, the host team here, sad to see them get knocked out in the final of the knockout competition, but that's the way it goes in F1 in schools racing. Hydron, hats off to them, a great effort. Clearly the fastest car out there, some very fast racing indeed, and they've also benefited from a really interesting and compliant design that meant that they went through with very strong points from Scrutineering and also these points from the knockout competition. Let's take a look at the bonus points that have been picked up from that knockout competition racing. Well, of course, Hydron being the winners pick up that valuable 30 bonus points, and 27 points go to Axion for taking second, which is a big boost for them because obviously they finished the overall racing in 7th. Let's look at how the points tally up with those bonus points from the knockout competition and the points earned from the normal racing program. And Hydron obviously finished on top. Those 30 valuable bonus points they got from the knockout competition, giving them 180 overall. Aspect Racing finished in 2nd with 159, and Constellation Racing in 3rd with 155 points.
The Formula One in schools competition is so much more than just racing. Teams are judged on a range of other criteria, and the COVID pandemic forced the judging process online, with students presenting using Microsoft Teams. In online meetings with the judges, each team had the opportunity to demonstrate their understanding and application of engineering CAD, walk the judges through their manufacturing process, and provide a virtual overview of their trade display. In a separate online judging session, students were required to give a verbal presentation explaining the innovations they had implemented, the refinement process surrounding their car, team management and marketing, and how they collaborated with industry. This session also focused on the learning outcomes they achieved, the new skills gained, and how their career aspirations may have changed as a result of the F1 in Schools program. Each team must prepare and submit an enterprise and also an engineering portfolio document. The judges review these carefully, and points are awarded based on the content, but also on the clarity and quality of the work. The judging process is such an important part of the F1 in Schools competition. It helps prepare students for the transition to the world of work, building in them the confidence and employability skills industry is looking for. Skills they'll need to succeed in their careers and in life.
Right, we're now going to head into the awards for the 2021 National Finals for the professional class. We have 3 segments in the awards, 11 category awards, 3 racing awards, and of course our outright awards.
Our winner in the fastest lap category from the professional class, Hydron from Trinity Grammar School Q.
An angled canister is also a major performance improvement for little cost. By angling the canister 2 degrees, we're able to move the line of thrust 3 millimetres closer to the centre of mass.
And now to our winner in the Grand Prix race category for professional class, that goes to Hydron from Trinity Grammar School.
My objective was to create an innovative car. The car was the basis of our team, so I ensured that ours was not only innovative but also fast.
The award for Best Engineered goes to Hydron from Trinity Grammar School.
Our car was designed to be energy efficient and lightweight. The main body stretches down the length of the entire car to evenly distribute air pressure across the body. Our front wing features a double element wing.
The award for Best Engineering CAD goes to Hydron from Trinity Grammar School.
We implemented our title innovation, the convex-concave nose cone design. This nose cone is concave at the centre and molds out to be convex on the outside, as you can see here.
The award for Best Manufactured Car goes to Hydron from Trinity Grammar School.
My goal was to aim for precise manufacturing. Our engineers could design the fastest car ever, but without high quality and precise manufacturing, it would not race well.
The award for Best Team Portfolio goes to Hydron from Trinity Grammar School.
Innovation played a large role in our project. It's part of our slogan, innovation through simplicity. Innovation is important in our world and in our car as it is the solution to many new problems.
Best Managed Enterprise Award goes to Hydron from Trinity Grammar School.
I became our team manager.
I became our quality control manager.
I became a manufacturing engineer.
I became a marketing director.
And I became our design engineer.
Photonic Racing from Blue Mountains Grammar School takes Best Trade Display Award.
Our trade display is 100% recyclable in line with our sustainability goals. Unlike other display designs, ours is made out of fully recyclable cardboard, as well as using refurbished sconces and recycled film props.
The Best Graphic Design Award goes to Hydron from Trinity Grammar School.
To enhance our brand identity, our team developed our own unique graphical pattern to be used on different project elements. As we can see here, we developed the stem and dot motif, which we used on many of our deliverables to enhance our identity.
The Best Team Marketing Award goes to Photonic Racing from Blue Mountains Grammar School.
One of our unique marketing strategies is our secondary social media meme page. We regularly post humorous and relatable content specific to the F1 in Schools community. This page is extremely popular with over 600 followers.
Hydron from Trinity Grammar School takes the Best Team Verbal Presentation Award.
Months of hard work has brought us here, and we're very excited to share with you what makes up our team. Hi, I'm Alex.
I'm Will.
I'm Tim.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Andrew.
And we are Hydron.
The award for Outstanding Industry Collaboration goes to Momentum from Albert Park College.
For media exposure, we've worked with Driven Women magazine, who have been a sponsor since October 2019, to write articles about our progression in the competition and the different work we do with different sponsors.
First place in the Innovation Award goes to Photonic Racing from Blue Mountains Grammar School.
Our car.
Our car is the focus of the competition and is the primary product of our team.
It includes many innovative features such as our ALS system, side pod extensions, magnetic wheel cap assembly system, and our quad wing design.
And now for our outright awards in professional class. In third place, In Motion from Riverside High School.
Did you know that out of all the workers within the STEM industry, only 18% are female? Today we are here breaking the many gender stereotypes that people perceive to be true.
Second place to Axion from Penrith Christian College.
Underneath our logo, we carry with us our slogan, Imagine, Discover, Excel. We want to imagine bigger goals, we want to discover who we are for the competition, and we want to excel at what we do and take pride in it. When applying these 3 principles, we become Team Excel.
And our outright winners, Hydron from Trinity Grammar School in Kew.
Our front wing features a double element wing to redirect airflow over the front wheel with minimal collision, and a deflector end plate to redirect airflow around the side of the front wheel.
Hydron's 11 awards at the 2021 National Finals is an extraordinary achievement for the 5-member team from Victoria. And to launch their car, the team produced this amazing video, built using Blender and taking 6 months to develop and then over 29 days to render. Each of the Hydron team members gained new skills and experience throughout the F1 in Schools competition. Alex Liu was responsible for team management and assisted with graphics implementation. Alex is considering a future career in business management with a focus on materials supply and manufacturing. Andrew Yang is Hydron's design engineer and has improved his proficiency using the many digital tools required to design a miniature F1 car. He was responsible for producing the team's engineering portfolio and is considering a future career in engineering. Computer-aided manufacturing was Tim Crichton's responsibility. Tim worked with the team's engineering partners to optimise their processes and select materials for manufacturing, and he has aspirations of a career in mechanical engineering. Ben Noonan is the team's marketing director, responsible for the team's public image and ensuring Hydron has an active presence on social media. Ben was also responsible for generating sponsorship revenue and has future career ambitions in human resources or even an educational setting. Quality control is an especially important aspect, and Will Johnson has the role of quality control manager. Will made sure every project element was checked and scrutinised before submission, and he has ideas on a possible career in cryptologic linguistics. Hydron's commitment to excellence and quality is a testament to the team winning the F1 in Schools National Finals. Their hard work and dedication paying dividends today and preparing each team member for an exciting career in the future.
Congratulations to all our professional teams who have won awards here today, and also our overall winner, Hydron. The level of competition in the professional class is indicative of the talents of these STEM students and is also validation of the many hours of hard work that's gone into the development and manufacturing of the cars, but also the collaboration and cooperation of each team and each member in those teams. If you want to see more F1 in Schools racing, then take a look at our development class program from yesterday's racing. I'm John Thomson. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.